Ginkgo leaf is a relatively simple project. The most challenging elements are creating texture and form on the leaf surface itself, and also the stem, which is deliberately positioned cutting slightly across the grain of the wood. As it cuts slightly across the grain of the wood, it is more fragile than if it had been in line with the wood's grain. If you don't feel up to the challenge of that, it's not a problem. If you're just starting out, feel free to redraw the stem so that it runs in line with the grain. You can see the grain running that way. So just redraw it and cut it out that way. But we'll go with it as is, so it's slightly more challenging. Now, before you get started, take a quick photograph of the kit as it comes with all of the lines on, so you've got something to refer back to later for when you're adding shape and form and texture to the leaf. To start with, you're just going to cut out the two-dimensional shape of the leaf, and to give yourself an easy start, just begin on the sides and just make sort of smooth slicing cuts down the side until the outer edge of the wood has met the outer line. Once you're there, start the knife from just below that point and again shave down here, following the line, the outer line of the leaf, until you get down to the bottom. Do the same on the opposite side and bring it down to meet your cuts from this side. The top is slightly more difficult, certainly more challenging, again because of that stem. So start by making a cut horizontally in that side, like that, and then make a slicing cut down to meet it. Repeat that, alternating the cuts as you work your way down through the surface, down to here, to meet the stem. As I say, just be very careful when you're getting close to the stem, because you stand a chance of being able to slice through it. If you're unsure, just leave it slightly thicker than is drawn, because you can always thin it down later. Do the same on the other side, so horizontal cut in, slice down to it. Don't use too much force because you don't want the knife to travel too far. Once you've got the overall shape cut out, you can now start to look at doing the three-dimensional form. When it comes to the form of the ginkgo leaf, it's almost fan-like in its shape. So lowest point is almost where the stem meets the surface of the leaf, and it fans out and over, and it rolls slightly as it goes out. So the way to do this, well, it's up to you, but I tend to start with the knife at an angle and just make slicing cuts across the surface, one from that side, and then from that side, and then from that side, and then from that side, moving the knife around that central point. So you use the belly of the blade to come across here whilst keeping the tip fairly steady in that point. If it helps, you can always do a score line in, not all the way, but just about a third of the way down the length of the leaf, using the tip of the knife. Just do repeated score lines down, and that'll help to act as a stop cut, which will stop the knife tip from travelling too far, and it'll enable you to rotate the knife across the surface. Continue to do that until you've created a fan shape that you're pleased with. Try not, or make sure you don't, let the tip of the knife go outside of the line, because you'll find that you weaken the wood and the natural adhesive that exists between the wood fibres. When you come to this lower edge and this outer edge, you can start to shape the leaf down, almost so it bends down towards the back, like that. And if you do that, then it'll sit in a more balanced way when it's being worn. If you have it so it comes up to the sides, up to the top on each side, you'll probably find that when it's worn, it's not very stable. So wherever possible, on the outer edge, bring it down towards the back of the wood, and that'll make it more stable. Now, in terms of adding texture, very much the same as you were doing before. You'd be looking to do sweeping cuts, but this time you're going to stop the sweeping cuts to match each one of these lines. It's up to you whether you want to do all of these lines or just a few. It can work really well with just 3, maybe 4 lines fanning out from that centre. So use the tip of the knife, score along the line, and then make slicing cuts down towards it and across that way, just to create a little valley for each one. Once you're happy with the texture, all that's left to do is to fix the little screw-in eyelet that came with the carving kit into an appropriate part of the leaf. Now obviously if you've made the stem this thin, you're not going to be able to get the eyelet in there, because if you screw that in, it'll just open the wood fibres up and it will fall out. So fixing it in the side there works very well, or in behind, and that will enable it to hang and it'll sit forward like that. But it's up to you. Wherever you've got enough thickness of wood and enough depth to screw that in, that'll work. Once you've got the eyelet in, just thread the cord through and it's ready to go. I hope you enjoy carving it.